Over the last decade or so, we've been putting in a lot of efforts to go from what was originally a 5-store story to becoming a national brand. Women's product is not made in very large quantities for a single style. While we don't invest in manufacturing facilities, we do invest in opening stores. And each store has an investment of about somewhere between 1.2 to 1.5 crores. On the GST rate reduction, it's been reported very widely that it's gone from 12% to 5%. While that is true, footwear is divided into multiple segments for GST.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bazaar and Beyond, where we deep dive into the world of finance, investing and more to help you make smart investment decisions. और मैं हूँ आपका होस्ट विवेक अनंत। आज का एपिसोड बहुत ही इंसाइटफुल होने वाला है क्योंकि हमारे गेस्ट हैं नाजिम वीरजी, the third generation leader of Regal Shoes, an iconic family-run enterprise that's helped define the way generations of Indians shop for footwear. From preserving a legacy started in the heart of Mumbai to navigating GST reforms and the ever-evolving retail landscape, Nazim brings a rare vantage point on what it takes to build, reinvent, and champion a true Indian brand. Regal Shoes ka safar is not just a business story, it's a story about Indian tradition, ambition, and the ability to keep pace with changing times. Nazim, thank you for joining us. I wanted to start off with asking you, could you explain to our viewers what Regal Shoes is and how it has become what it is today, where it started, how many years ago, what plans did you put in place to arrive at today's situation?
Firstly, thanks for having me. So Regal goes back more than 7 decades. It's the story of my grandfather. He lived in a small chawl in Bhendi Bazaar in a place in Mumbai, and obviously came from very limited means. He, along with some friends, decided that we need to do something to, economically move ourselves ahead. And they used to spend a lot of time in Colaba, where there were a few footwear stores. And they started working there in some of those shops. And over time, they built a little bit of capital. I think his father also ran a leather trading business. So he had saved some capital from there. And together with a few partners, they decided to open a small footwear store in Colaba, which was the first Regal that opened in the year 1954. Back then, it was a very big decision. It's like putting all your eggs in one basket. And it was a lot of pressure on him to perform because there were no second chances back then.
Okay.
They obviously worked very hard for a very long time. And that one store kept getting larger. They kept taking the stores behind, the stores next to them to make it larger. And the business kept increasing over time. I think even back then, he had a reputation of having a very keen eye for product, having a very keen eye for strong operations. He was a very disciplined man. He would be at the store dot at 9:30 a.m. in the morning to open the store. He'd be there till the store shut down at night. It was a very tough job. Running retail is not easy. It's a 12-hour, 7 days a week kind of a situation. And it takes a long time to build trust with customers. And over the years, that Regal footwear store out there gained a lot of popularity. And by the time the 70s came around, which was about 15 to 20 years into his running the business, that corner started getting known as the Regal Shoes corner. Of course, there was Regal Cinema right down the road, but we have advertisements in newspapers of back then where other brands have mentioned across Regal Shoes or 2 shops down from Regal Shoes, and so he really built that business there one day at a time, one shoe at a time. In the late 70s, my father joined the business as well. He started a shop in Bandra Linking Road, which is today our flagship store. We still run that store. That store also started as a small 300 square foot location. Again, he built that business one step at a time. Back then, Linking Road was like a desert. He would tell me stories of how he would see some people between 11 and 12 in the morning, and then again straight in the evening post 6. In the middle, you maybe see 1 or 2 customers through the day. There must have been about 5 or 7 shops on that entire road, and slowly it started developing. Again, because of the effort that he had put in there, the consistency of work, the consistency of product, consistency of operation, the market started evolving around that Regal store in Linking Road. And he also started expanding the same way as a lot of old businesses would expand. There would be one small store, and then as the store is doing well, you buy the store next door, you buy the store behind you, you start expanding that store and start becoming larger. And over time, you get to be known as what today would be called an anchor store for that particular market.
Okay.
So Regal kind of became the anchor store for that footwear market.
Okay.
Over time, Metro Shoes came across, a Lords came, and over the years, there've been hundreds of other brands that have come. Now you'll obviously see a Nike, Adidas, you'll see a Foot Locker has just opened up at Linking Road. So over time, that market developed and it's evolved into what it is today. It's a very simple way of going about things. You go to work every day, you put in your best, and over time you expand. Nothing happens overnight. My father then expanded to about 5 shops till the early 2000s.
All in Mumbai?
There were 3 in Mumbai and a couple outside Mumbai, one in Ahmedabad, one in Pune.
Okay.
So he was part of the business till about 2005. He then moved on into social work and kind of took on another role in his life. That's something that interested him. And that's when my brother came in, and a couple of years later I joined in. And we had both studied abroad. We had the opportunity of doing an MBA and our graduation abroad. And we obviously came in with a lot of ambition, wanting to take the business to the next level. But it took us some time to understand the business, the nitty-gritties, the way the Indian footwear market works. It was largely unorganized back then, and over the years we've seen it get more and more organized. And as we started getting a stronger grip of the business, we decided that now we want to start expanding and becoming a national chain. So over the last decade or so, we've been putting in a lot of efforts to go from what was originally a 5-store story to becoming a national brand. So today we are in about 16 cities where we run our own stores. We also work through the shop-in-shop format, through large format stores like Lifestyle, Shopper Stop, and we run about 150 shop-in-shops as well. In the last few years, the digital age has caught up. So we have our own website. We have many channels that we work through: Myntra, Amazon, Nykaa, Ajio, which are doing very well for us. So it's been a long story in the making. It's been slow and steady. And I would say today as well, we have the same ethos. We work every day to make sure that we are giving the best possible products to the customer, the best qualities to the customer. And we try to stay away from all the background noise that's going on in most industries with, trying to scale up too fast and just show top line growth. So we're very rooted in our ethos of trying to maintain a strong, stable, profitable business.
So you work with the folks in these clusters where they are making shoes, right? Like जैसे कि वहाँ पे जैसे कानपुर में हो गया या कोई और region हो गया, वहाँ से आप local जो who actually make it, you work with those factories, you individuals or companies or as you may have it. So asset light business ho gaya basically. Why wouldn't you scale faster considering it's an asset light business? I'll tell you why I'm asking this. Generally, when we look at a company that has a lot of higher turnover or throughput, and it's an asset light business, वहाँ पे investor को generally interest ज़्यादा रहता है because उनका capital ज़्यादा lock नहीं रहता. It is mostly managing the operations of the stores, brick and mortar stores. Why have you taken so much time? It must be a thought-through strategy. Could you just explain that to our viewers?
So it's not necessarily as asset-light as you would think. A lot of investment is involved in opening stores.
Okay.
So for every store you open, you have a deposit for that particular store. It's generally a lease rent or a license model where you open a new store. So there's the deposit aspect. There's the capex for furniture and fixtures, and then you pump in a lot of money into the stock as well. We work, okay, let's come back to the kind of manufacturers we work with. We work with different kinds of manufacturers. 15 or 20 years back, it was a different story, and today it's a different story. When we started off, a lot of the manufacturing was done in small workshops of 300 square foot, 500 square foot, karkhanas, what they would call them, in and around different areas of Bombay, around Nagpada, around Dharavi, around Bhiwandi as well. Over time, a lot of these products were handmade, very little machinery being used. It was a lot of artisan work. Quantities were a challenge, producing in large quantities. Along with that, we also worked with a lot of factories in Agra, in Chennai, who did the more larger production volumes business, and that was in the men's product. Men's product is a lot more technical when it comes to the kind of finish that is required, the kind of last that is required. So that started happening a lot more with factories. Over time, a lot of the small karkhanas that were there in Nagpada or Dharavi and all of these places have moved to Bhiwandi, taken larger spaces and become larger facilities. Now they do a hybrid of machines and manufacturing facilities along with their handmade work. So the women's product that we supply is primarily made in these kind of environments. The reason for that is it needs a lot more variety. Women's product is not made in very large quantities for a single style, but there are many styles coming in every month. With men, it's the same styles will have a lot more quantities because the amount of variety required by men is not the same. So that happens more with larger factories. You need a lot more volume-based business there. So while we don't invest in manufacturing facilities, we do invest in opening stores. And each store has an investment of about somewhere between 1.2 to 1.5 crores before the first invoice is raised. So that kind of is a barrier to entry in the brick and mortar business.
Okay.
Having said that, it is quite profitable. If you do it right, it's quite profitable. But it takes a while for the money to come in. It takes a while for the return on investment to come in. It can take anywhere between 2 to 3 years for that capital to be returned to you, depending on the interest rate and things like that. So there are limitations there. Of course, at some point, once you get the model right, there is scope to expand very fast, but it would need some kind of influx of capital at that point. And organically to grow at that rate is not as easy with your own funds beyond a certain point.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for that introduction. बहुत ही मतलब हमारे viewers को समझ में आया होगा how the shoe business works and how the evolution of Regal happened over the years. I wanted to change tack to something very current today. The GST rate cut has happened. Footwear below 2,500 उस पे 12% से 5% हो गया है GST rate. मगर जो 2,500 के ऊपर है उनको 18% पे ही रखा है. तो what is the impact that you have seen in अभी थोड़े दिन ही हुए हैं GST rates implement होके. What is the impact that you have seen in the walk-ins, footfalls, and the queries from your customers?
So the GST rate cut, it's come very timely. It's come as a Diwali gift from the government. It's going to impact directly at the customer's pocket, which is a great thing. It's very clear that all the brands that we work with, including our own private labels, we are all immediately passing on that benefit. So it's something that will benefit the customer immediately. But before I answer this, I just wanted to clarify on the GST rate reduction. It's been reported very widely that it's gone from 12% to 5%. While that is true, footwear is divided into multiple segments for GST. There is the product which is up to 1,000, which used to be 12% GST, and the product above 1,000, which used to be 18% GST. Now, all footwear till 2,500, till a selling price of 2,500, has come to the 5% mark, which is an effective discount of around 6.5% on product up to rupees 1,000, and a little over 11% on product from 1,000 to 2,500, which would kind of fall into the mid-premium segment.
Okay.
Now, footwear in India comes in different price bands. There's the 0 to 500, which is the very mass segment. There's 500 to 1000, which is an economy range. Then between 1000 to 3000 is your mid premium. 3000 to 5000 is your premium, and 5000 above is luxury. It's a very, very niche segment. Largely, the band below 1000 is populated by the unorganized market.
Okay.
There are organized players. There are these larger, the D-marts and your larger department stores, which will have some ranges in that. But it's primarily dominated by the unorganized sector. The 1000 to 3000 range is populated both by the unorganized as well as the organized retailers.
Okay.
And that's where they're both competing for the same customer. The mid value of that, which is 2,000 rupees, is a very sweet spot. Once you cross 2,000, you've really cut down the number of customers you can service.
Is it? Okay.
Yes. And as you go below 2,000, you're taking on a lot larger. The pyramid works like that. One way of establishing that or one way to understand that is by looking at the distribution market that the brands work in. Brands distribute their product to large format stores like Lifestyle, Shoppers Stop, to multi-brand outlets like Regal, Metro, and to local players, which are local footwear stores across the country. In all high streets, you'll see them, where they go through local distributors and regional distributors.
Okay.
They will not directly reach out to them. Now, those smaller stores, while they run one store or two stores, each city will have hundreds of them. If it's a large city, it'll have hundreds of them. If it's a smaller town, it'll probably have 50, 60 of them within a 2-3 kilometer or 5 kilometer radius. They will almost never buy product from their distributors, which is to be sold above 2,000.
Oh, okay.
Almost 95% of the product that they sell will be below 2,000.
Okay.
In fact, I would say probably up to 99%. So this is the unorganized sector. The organized sector is struggling to sell in that segment because of the 18% price
Okay.
band. What this
GST,
yes, sorry, the 18% GST, which is effectively on a 2,000 rupee product, it's almost 450 rupees, right? So what this reduction in GST does is it allows organized players to now drop their pricing of quality footwear very close to that 2,000 mark.
All right.
So whatever is being sold between 2,000 to 3,000 as of last week or as of prior to 21st September, brands are doing the best that they can to bring that product price point down to around as close to 2,000 as possible,
Okay.
which is a very competitive area for this segment. So I do see brands making an enormous effort to kind of capture that customer. And I think customers at some point will notice that the better quality footwear or better designs are now available at a closer to that number that they're willing to spend. I think it'll also benefit the unorganized sector. There's a lot of unorganized players who are not necessarily happy being in the unorganized segment. They might be encouraged to say that, okay, you know what, it's not that big a cost to get organized. It's not that heavy on my pocket anymore. I'd rather be organized and start growing and expand my business than stay, in a 1 or 2 shop or a 3 shop situation and kind of work in this manner. So I think as far as opening up the market, this has a great possible benefit. Customers are happy because they'll get better product at similar price points that they were spending at before as well. And those who are willing to spend a little more will get that discount, which is always, Indian customers love discount, regardless of in what form it comes.
Do you foresee a lot of discounting happening in the shoe shoe retailing space because of? So the announcement was made by the PM on his Independence Day speech. The GST Council announced it on 3rd of September. It took some time to get here. So the feeling, at least, I'll give my own example. अगर मुझे जूता खरीदना था, मैं वेट करूँगा ना कि 23 तारीख तक जब रेट कम होंगे, तो मुझे ये समझना है कि 15 तारीख से अभी तक आपने कुछ घटा है क्या फुटफॉल्स या परचेजिंग डिसीजंस, और उसके बाद ये 22 तारीख के बाद आप एक सर्च देख रहे हैं क्या, कुछ हुआ है क्या ऐसा कुछ ट्रेंड?
So you have to give it to the government. They are very sharp. They know what they're doing. They know when the season starts. So 22nd September is when the new GST rate came into effect. That's the start of Navratri. It's pretty much signals the start of the season for this shopping festival, which is basically Navratri, Dasera, Diwali, and then from there on the wedding season comes on, and New Year's, etc. It's the strongest part of the year for our segment of shopping. Fashion, your wedding shoes, your festive shoes, all kinds of things like that. So the government knew what it was doing. Shraddh ended right before that. People don't shop in Shraddh. I think we all, all our parents would have told us, "Nahi, abhi Navratri ke baad jayenge." We've all probably seen this happen in our families over the years. So Shraddh is a very lull period for all of us. So we didn't really see much of a dip. It's already a very low lull time. So only shoppers who are really in need to buy during that period are coming out, and if their need is that heavy, a small discount at that point is not going to affect them. Come 22nd September, when the GST reduction was effective, all brands, all retailers went on discount immediately. Okay. You could have seen it on all our websites. In any of our stores, you would see a GST reduction banner. You would have seen, shelf talkers, all kinds of things, communicating it to the customer as rightly it should be. How much of an uptake it is from the 22nd till now, it's too few a number of days for me to give you data. It's too early. I think the right way to assess that would be to look at it after a couple of months. We are all definitely expecting a spike in this season's sales. In the short run, as soon as you give a discount, numbers are going to go up. You will, at the end of the month or end of the quarter, see that uptake. I think the long-term benefit is something that would really be impactful for the industry. As I said, pricing overall will come down. Going forward, brands will reduce their price points. So as opposed to just right now giving a discount, right now I can give an 11% discount. Let's say I give a 15% discount. The customer will be happy, they will take that discount, shop a little extra and go on. But that doesn't change the long run. The long run is when a brand consciously reduces the marked prices on their product. So something that would have been marked at 2,500 will now be marked at 2,000. Something that was marked at 3,000 will now be marked at 2,500. That will cause a large shift in the way brands are pricing as well as the way consumers are shopping. I would imagine, as a consumer, I would much rather shop in a well-made, well-organized footwear store as opposed to a local footwear store if I'm getting similar pricing. And I think that effect will cause a ripple effect over the next couple of years.
So Nazim, I wanted to ask this one question about how you gather business intelligence to pick the designs that you are going to pick, or the stock that you're going to put in the store, especially considering all of this must be very granular details. How do you capture these details in terms of tastes of your consumers? Which part of the store will have which kind of product when people walk in? How do you gather this data, and how do you disseminate it across the stores in India in terms of where to keep which product or which style has to be brought to which store? Could you just share some insights on that?
So we use a lot of BI tools, business intelligence tools, to gather, to generate the right kind of analysis about what response our products are getting, what the different categories are, how the different categories are performing across different segments. So while we work in multiple verticals, our primary vertical is our own stores, which carry more than maybe 600 to 800 different kind of styles at any given point. Now that's a lot of different SKUs to have on the shelves. You rightly said, you need to make a decision of how you decide what category to display in which manner, in which part of the store, what to highlight at a certain time. So when we look at historical data, and by historical I don't mean going back too far, just in the last couple of years, you generally look at anywhere in 1 to 3 years prior data. Coming into any month or any season, what category of footwear is selling the most. Whether, like, for example, coming ahead, we're getting into the festive season. We know the ethnic wear collection will sell the most for women. In men's, again, it'll be a lot of things that you wear with the kurta, pajama types, your pathanis, your things that you would wear with the sherwani. Or if the wedding season is coming, you'll be wearing your suits. So you need your Oxfords, you need your patent collection, things like that. So it's very very specifically category driven. We also go into micro segments. So, for example, if we are entering into the month of April or end of March, we know that from last year's data that the summer is coming up. College kids will want to wear sliders. They'll want to wear more colorful things. Shoes that they'll be wearing to the mall, to the movies, things like that. So we are constantly looking at what happened historically during that period that's coming up, and what did well, and how to then highlight that in the stores. So it's actually very data driven. We are almost never guessing, so to say. We're never guessing by saying that, okay, this is the category that I'm going to highlight. I hope it does well. That doesn't happen at all. We know that these categories are the ones that are going to sell in the coming months or in the coming weeks. And those are the ones that we've been planning for that for 6 months, because to have something on the shelves today, we would have had to have ordered it anywhere between 3 to 4 months back.
Okay.
And to finalize the designs about a month or two before that. So it's a continuous process. Like I was telling you before we started, that we release about 50 new styles every month. Now that obviously takes a lot of planning. There's a whole team of about 8 or 10 individuals who are constantly doing R&D on what designs will be released 3 to 6 months down the road.
Okay.
Especially in our private labels. At the same time, we also work with a lot of brands. We work with a lot of international brands like Skechers. We used to work with Clarks. We work with Puma, Floshem, and they all come in with their studies as well. So we are constantly talking to the teams, understanding what their analysis is. So for someone like a Skechers, for example, it's completely different category from what we service. Our core categories are the formal, semi-formal, and your casual footwear. They go into the sports, your athleisure section, right? So they come in with their expertise. They know that for their segments, flip-flops will sell a lot more during the summer months, as opposed to your walking shoes will sell more during the October to December time. And they look at the data from our stores as well as their MBOs and also their exclusive brand outlets. So they're studying maybe data from 2,000 different stores, while we are studying data from about 200 different stores for our categories. So there's a lot of back and forth going on in analysis. When it comes to what specific designs to work on, which is a lot more detail oriented, we have a team of designers that sit in-house, which is led by my brother. He's studied fashion designing himself. So he's constantly studying what's working in India, what's working outside of India, to kind of see where iterations can be done. And a lot of designing is actually iterations. It's not, every design is not a new conception. Every design is an iteration of something that came into the market 6 months ago, or a year ago, or 3 years ago. Fashion is also cyclical. For example, if you've seen Amitabh Bachchan movies, you would have seen him wear bell-bottoms maybe in the 70s, and you would see bell-bottoms maybe 20 years before that and 20 years hence again. So fashion is cyclical, but the detailing is where the art is, and that is what the teams are constantly doing. But yeah, it's not a guessing game at all. It's very data-driven. We also work with the likes of Myntra and Amazon, who are constantly giving us feedback on, they're seeing, let's say, for example, Myntra will come, every monthly review when we have with Myntra, they might come and say that, we are seeing a lot of traction in loafers or driving shoes, for example. So that's a category that we think you should be expanding more in. And then we go back to the drawing board, see what we have in that kind of collection. Then we start talking to manufacturers who might be able to produce that kind of product, see what works for our quality or our standards, and then start working on that as well. So it's a lot of give and take between partners. It's not just the data that we have for our stores. It's the data that is also shared with us by the channel partners that we have, the lifestyles, the shopper stops, the Myntra, the brands that we work with. Everyone is constantly looking at what's working for them and coming back with intelligence and discussing on the same table.
Could you give us an example, like say some insight that you found on a shop floor, or when you were traveling to visit your stores? You travel around the country to visit all your stores. वहाँ जाके you go take stock at every in every city where you travel. Something that you found insightful that kind of changed the way you thought about your business. Any incidents or anecdotes like that?
So I have, honestly, all the magic happens on the shop floor. I have learned all my everything that I know about my business on the shop floor. Everything at the back end is pretty much numbers. You're looking at reports. You're looking at you're looking at financial statements, or you're looking at sales reports or some kind of data, right? But when you actually walk onto the shop floor, that's where you're seeing. That's where the movie is going on, right?
Okay.
Like the back end is a production that you're seeing behind the cameras. When you reach the shop floor, that's in front of the camera. That's where the song and dance is going on. So if you just stand at the shop floor and not as management but as an observer, if you just look at shoppers walk in and walk out of your store, each shopper will come with his own story, and that's something that you need to keep you need to stay grounded with that. So for example, in the next couple of months, if you go to my store at Dadar, almost every day you will see a to-be groom walk into the store with his to-be in-laws who are about to buy him a pair of shoes for the wedding reception, because that's their tradition in that area. He'll obviously bring a friend along who'll help him pick the right pair of shoes. If you walk into a mall, you'll see a 23-year-old girl who's recently gotten her first job walk in with her mother saying that, this is my favorite shop. I want to buy you a pair of shoes from here because now I'm earning well. So you get to see the stories there. We might go back and say that this is what the numbers are saying. This is what the design should look like. But how that plays out on the field and how that actually translates into the joy of shopping can only be seen at the shop floor. There's always my favorite. This is my favorite. On Sundays, you will always see a father walk in with his family, maybe one or two kids, his wife, maybe his mother. He needs to, make sure that his weekly outing is happening with his family, but he also needs to, get his shopping done. So he's walked in to buy his pair of office shoes or, a pair of shoes for the wedding that's coming up. And his primary question will be, ये असली लेदर है ना, ये 3-4 साल चलेगा, ये wrinkle तो नहीं होगा, and his son or daughter is pointing at their phone and saying, Dad, this influencer is wearing this shoe, you have to buy that style. That says a lot about India, right? Like, Indians are very fashion conscious now, but they're also very quality conscious. So it's not just दिखता कैसे है, it's also टिकता है क्या, ये चलेगा क्या मेरा. But the kid is like, nahi yaar, it has to be fashionable. My dad has to look good, like I don't want to be embarrassed by what he's wearing. So all of these emotions are seen on the shop floor. Indians, I don't know about other cultures, but Indians don't shop in silos. They don't shop alone. They are always either with a friend or with a family member or with a whole jingbang of people there. And if by the off chance they've come alone, they will take a photo or do a video call with a friend or a loved one or a fiance and say that, this is what I'm thinking. At the same time, they're also scrolling online to check your price points, to check what competitors are selling, to check what the influencer is wearing. So, it's there's a whole movie going on at that shop floor, and if you're not connected to it, then you really cannot survive in the business, because that's who you're serving, right? That's who you're kind of trying to reach out to. So you have to be there. You have to know what they are thinking, what they're talking about, the way they're behaving, the way they're interacting with your product, with your salespeople. It's very important.
So this transition that you were talking about, Joe, taste of consumers to change हुआ है since you and your brother took over the business. It has been very stark after say 2008-9, after Flipkart came, Myntra launched a few years later. तो आपके business में काफी turmoil भी आपको देखने को मिलेगा in terms of how customer tastes and shopping habits changed. How have you managed to adapt and stay relevant even today?
So I wouldn't call it turmoil. I would call it expansion of the segment and the market for us. So let me ask you a question. Growing up, how many shoes did your father have?
He was in the army, so probably 3 or 4.
And what colors were they?
Black, brown.
And one sports shoe.
Yeah.
That was the standard, right?
Yes.
You open the cupboard, you'll see a black, you'll see a brown, you'll see a sports shoe.
Okay.
Sometimes there wouldn't be a brown, it'll just be a black and a sports shoe. Sometimes it'll just be a black. I have seen people running back in the day with their black formal shoes also.
Yeah.
So, and I'm talking about the men's categories specifically because that has evolved drastically. What used to be a black and a brown has now become a black, a brown, a tan, a maroon, and a blue, a red, a yellow pair of Onitsuka Tigers. It's just expanded into this flush of colors, right? So that's how much the market has evolved. A person who would buy maybe one shoe every 4 years back in the day now buys 4 shoes a year. So it's not turmoil. It is an expansion of categories that is now required by the market, that is required by the consumer. It's our job to make sure that we're keeping up to that standard, or keeping up to that requirement rather. So I remember this thing from 15 years ago, around 15 years ago. Again, back then still the black category was the primary category for men, the black formal shoe. We did a lot of study, and we looked at the way celebrities were dressing, and we looked at the way people at all these pastry parties were being seen in the papers and things like that. And we realized that there's a segment that's really coming up, which is the tan collection.
Okay.
It's the tan footwear, which people wear with dark blue suits, or you can wear with a grey suit. Now, we weren't sure whether we should invest in something like that because it was just not part of our usual repertoire. But that one season, we said, okay, let's try this out. Let's put in a bet on a tan collection, and we'll push it marketing wise, and let's see what happens. And for the first time in how long we had gone back and seen the data, there was a category that outsold the black footwear, which was the tan collection. Customers were just so happy to have this new segment being offered that they just lapped it up. And it completely opened our minds. It was like, kind of stumbling into a lottery ticket, like that a winning lottery ticket on the road. It's like that. We had no idea how well it'll do. And that kind of opened up our minds to, what, men are now starting to buy a lot more. And they're starting to populate their wardrobe with all kinds of styles and colors. That, I think, to me signifies how India has evolved. And now when you look at any guy's wardrobe, you'll see the blacks, right? You'll see the Oxfords and the Brogues. You'll see the tans. You'll see the browns. You'll see a massive sneaker collection. You'll see a massive sportswear collection. Things have changed completely. Same thing for women, right? Women always had more shoes. Again, I don't want to sound very old school, but it's true. Women were a lot more colorful and a lot more open to trying on different kinds of footwear. But that has also expanded. So before we would not see as much indulgence in larger heels, higher heels, or a little more eccentric looking fittings, things like that. But now they're more than happy to try something new. If they've seen an influencer wear something, it's almost a no-brainer. They will come and try it out.
So what I wanted to understand was like how your business is transformed. अभी आपने बोला कि it's a third generation family business. You had to adapt to digital way of doing business. You had mentioned like your digital channel brings around 10% of your business. कैसे आपने ये strategy बनाई जब आपका brick and mortar business है इतने साल से है legacy business transform कैसे कर रहे हैं? And it's obviously a long process. It's not going to happen instantly. You think of it as it is expanding the market for you. How do you adapt considering like you said, influencers are the ones who are driving a lot of sales. How do you work in that environment?
You have to adapt, right? I wouldn't say we were the first movers in this. We probably kind of got a jump start around COVID. Okay. We had already started our website, and we were already working with Myntra and Amazon back then. But I wouldn't say we had completely dived into this segment. COVID came and it kind of gave us the biggest scare possible, where all our shops were overnight shut, and we had to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure out how we will continue running a business without shops for an indefinite amount of time. So we took that time to really build our systems for the online market. What we learned there was that there are many aspects here that need to be in play. It's not just about cataloging all your product and putting it online. It's about integrating your inventory across stores and warehouses for the online channels. It's about setting up the right kind of logistics to be able to have pickups and deliveries across all these locations. It's about being able to have the right packaging to make sure that your product is reaching in the right way. It's about having the right kind of tech partners who can kind of make this all seamless. So we worked on a lot of that, which I would call is the operations part of it, setting up the operations. So we used that 2020, 2021 time span to get into that. Post that, we started looking for partners that would help us maximize the business. So now, the way tech moves, it's ever evolving. 4 years back, WhatsApp marketing was not that big a deal. Now it's become the go-to. You go to a website, and as soon as you've left, you'll get a WhatsApp message from that website. Whether you put in your number or no is not even relevant anymore, because there are partners that are kind of tracking that. Now, there are some legality issues there, and they need to be looked at if you're doing that kind of marketing. But there are partners that will provide you with all of these solutions, where you can keep reaching out to the customer in different ways and kind of being top of mind for that. So with digital age, being top of mind is the most important thing. And we try to put our marketing dollars, in a way where we can reach out to the customers that in as many ways as possible, whether it's WhatsApp, email, SMS doesn't do as well anymore. So we've kind of moved that to the back burner. Even with our orders on Myntra and Amazon, we are constantly trying to put in some communication which gets the customer to our website, which would in time help us expand our business with better margins. But it's constantly evolving. You have to I think you have to keep looking out for the kind of tech partners that will get you to the top of your game. And that's something that's very difficult to build in-house, is what we've realized.
So Nazim, last few questions. I want to understand the competitive landscape in your business, especially for us. The interest is because we're a stockbroker. हम mostly listed players के तरह भी देखते हैं. So if you could include that and describe how the competitive landscape is for you and generally the industry, and like what is the expectation of how fast it will grow, and if you have any IPO plans, whenever it is, what is the kind of metric that you want to look at?
So in our industry, the two largest listed players and the ones that we study very closely, and we have been studying very closely since we joined the business, are Metro and Bata. Metro recently got listed, I think, less than 2 years ago. They're doing very well in the stock market. For us, they work as beacons. They're the market leaders, right? And we are, while we are also not a new business, but for my brother and me, we are in this for about 15 years. So we look at them as what the India story can actually, where it can go. There's a lot more scope for a company like us to grow. So we very closely try to understand what kind of numbers they're doing out of small cities, out of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. There's obviously a difference in the way these three segments work, and the only way for us to understand that is by looking at what Metro is doing and what Bata is doing. What we have realized is there is just as much scope in a tier 2 and a tier 3 city as there would be in tier 1. And if you look at their numbers closely, you'll see a lot of their expansion, a lot of their growth coming from these areas. Multiple reasons. One is then these markets are not, they're a little untapped. But if you go in and actually look at the per square foot revenues, you look at the numbers coming in from these kind of towns and cities, you will see that the per square foot revenues match up to tier 2 and tier 1 cities all the time. It was, it's a surprising fact sometimes, but there is a lot of disposable income in many parts of the country. You can also see that with online business, where you'll see orders coming in from all kinds of towns and cities, which you might not have even heard of before. So for us, players like that, they give us a lot of confidence. They give us a lot of confidence to tell us that whatever we are doing is probably a 10th or maybe 100th of where we can actually reach. Metro is at more than 850 stores today. Bata is in excess of, I think, 1,500 stores across the country. That gives us scope to grow more than 30x of where we are. So going forward, yes, definitely we would be looking at an IPO in the next 7 years, probably 5 years. There are certain markers that we need to hit before we go there. But the story is very clear. The road is very clear, and generally, like all good seniors in a market or in any family, I hope they'll be ready to hand over the torch when we are there to take it on from them. And we will be there. We will be there in the next few years for sure, knocking at their doors, asking for that position. So, as we are the younger players in the market, we expect that when our time comes, Metro and Bata, like good elders of any family, will be there to hand over the torch to us when we are knocking for that number one position. And I think it'll happen soon. It'll happen in the next few years.
Great. The last question, we usually ask our guests to give some recommendations, like say a book, podcast, or movie, or anything that enriched your life, which made you feel like, okay, I should share this with someone. If you have any suggestions or recommendations, please do share them.
So I can obviously give you the very well-rehearsed answer that every footwear guy will say. There's a book called Shoe Dog by the founder of Nike. It's an excellent book. It talks about how he started that business, how he, from a distributor of Onitsuka Tigers, became converted into his own brand and became what Nike is today. It's a story of absolute grit, determination, and insane, sales, determination. My actual favorite would be a movie called Moneyball. If you've seen it, if you haven't, it's a lovely movie. It's worth watching. It's a movie in which stars Brad Pitt. He plays the manager of a baseball team in the US. It's an underdog team with a very limited funding compared to the larger teams, and he's constantly trying to figure out how to compete with the larger players. As you would imagine, limited funds against unlimited funds, like someone like the New York Yankees, would be very difficult, where his resources are very limited. And baseball also is a very traditional sport. So the way things would run, the way they would select players, was a very traditional way of doing things. Eventually, he got down to basically just the numbers. He started looking at players for what performance they were doing and not how they looked or how they behaved in front of a crowd or what kind of tickets they would pull in. So he started going down to the basics, and he got all the background noise out. That got his team to a very, very high level. They in fact broke the record for the highest number of consecutive wins in a season by any team ever, with the least amount of budget possible. They probably spent maybe a sixth or a seventh of what the other teams were spending. And that movie tells me a lot about what can be done by just focusing on what matters and leaving everything aside. Because often in business that happens, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of data coming your way. There's a lot of advice coming your way. There's a lot of feedback coming your way. There's an n number of data points, n number of things to take into consideration. But at the end of the day, you have to remove what is not required and focus on what matters. And over time, results will always come.
It's a Michael Lewis book, right? It was based on. Yeah.
Yes.
Viewers, you should read as many books of Michael Lewis as you can, because he's a great business writer, and he finds stories and characters where you would not think of it. I mean, that's very, very apropos what he was talking about, the business specifically. So thanks a lot for taking out the time, Nazim. It was a real pleasure having this conversation.
Thank you for having me. This was lovely.
तो ये था बाजार एंड बियॉन्ड का फाउंडर एडिशन एपिसोड. नाजिम वीरजी ने हमें समझाया कि फुटवेयर रिटेल में जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स का क्या इम्पैक्ट हुआ है, कंज्यूमर बिहेवियर किस तरह बदल रहा है, और एक फैमिली बिजनेस को एजाइल और रेलेवेंट रखने के लिए क्या सोचना चाहिए. अगर आपको ये एपिसोड पसंद आया तो वीडियो को लाइक और शेयर करें. ऐसे और वैल्यूएबल कॉन्वर्सेशंस के लिए हमारे mStock के यूट्यूब चैनल को जरूर सब्सक्राइब करें. तो फिर मिलते हैं अगले एपिसोड में. तब तक के लिए स्टे सेफ एंड इन्वेस्ट वाइजली.
Investments in securities markets are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.